When silence becomes louder than words, that's when the truth arrives, and when he dares to text you after disappearing, the reply you give will not just end the conversation, it will end the game. There is a language far stronger than words, a language that cuts deeper than any insult, any argument, any explanation you could ever give. That language is silence. Too often, people think that when someone pulls away, ignores you, or vanishes, the correct response is to chase after them with questions, with emotions, with energy. But silence, pure, controlled silence, becomes the loudest message you can ever send. When you choose silence, you are no longer reacting. You are no longer begging. You are no longer waiting. Instead, you are standing still with power, making the other person sit in the discomfort of their own choices. And that discomfort is more powerful than anything you could ever type back. When he disappears and then suddenly returns, testing the waters, silence makes him realize something he never expected. He does not have the power to interrupt your peace. He thought his absence would weaken you. He thought his return would spark relief in you. But silence flips that expectation. It makes him question his importance in your life. It makes him wonder why you aren't chasing, why you aren't explaining, why you aren't welcoming him back with open arms. That confusion, that sudden doubt, is the weight of silence pressing down on him. And trust me, it presses harder than any clever comeback you could send. People underestimate how silence works on the human mind. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of meaning, full of weight, full of energy. It makes the other person replay every action they took, every word they said, and every moment they vanished. It forces them to sit with themselves, because there is nothing from you to distract them from the truth. Silence is like a mirror. You hold it up without moving, and they are forced to see their reflection exactly as it is. That is brutal. That is destructive. And that is why silence holds more strength than noise. Think about this. Words can be twisted, arguments can be ignored, explanations can be rejected. But silence cannot be argued against. Silence cannot be interrupted. Silence does not bend or break. When you refuse to reply, you take away every weapon the other person has. They cannot twist silence. They cannot manipulate silence. They cannot escape silence. And in that realization, they feel powerless. That's when they begin to chase. That's when they begin to regret. That's when they realize they are no longer in control of the game they started. Silence also does something even more important. It protects your energy. Every word you type, every explanation you give, every argument you enter into, drains you. You are pouring your energy into someone who has already proven that they do not deserve it. But when you choose silence, you close the door to energy loss. You stop giving away pieces of yourself to someone who didn't value you in the first place. Silence is not just a weapon. It is protection. It shields your dignity, your time, your peace. And nothing is more brutal to someone who expected chaos than the calmness of a person who simply refuses to engage. And finally, silence shifts the balance of power back to you. Because when someone texts you after silence, they are already admitting something. They need your attention. They want your response. They are looking for proof that they still matter. But when you stay silent, or when your reply is delayed, measured, controlled, you show them that their return is not the event they imagined it to be. You show them that your world didn't pause when they left, that life kept moving, and so did you. And that realization cuts deeper than anger, deeper than begging, deeper than any brutal reply you could ever craft. Because in the end, silence is the reply. Silence is the power. Silence is the destruction. Respect is not something you ask for. It's something you demand by the way you carry yourself. When someone disappears, ignores you, or comes and goes at their convenience, it is not just about their actions. It is about how much you allow yourself to tolerate. Too often, people fall into the trap of thinking, if I just wait, if I just forgive, if I just explain one more time, maybe he'll understand, maybe he'll change. But let me tell you the truth. People don't respect what they can walk over. They don't value what always says yes. They don't honor what refuses to honor itself. Respect starts when you stop letting others treat you like an option. When he texts you after silence, the first question isn't, "What should I reply?" The first question is, do I respect myself enough to even respond? Because every time you reply too quickly, every time you accept inconsistency, every time you welcome back someone who treated you as if you didn't matter, you are teaching him a lesson. And the lesson is this: I can leave whenever I want, and she will always take me back. That is not respect. That is convenience. That is manipulation. That is weakness disguised as patience. But when you stand firm, when you hesitate, when you make him feel the weight of your standards, you teach a different lesson. You teach that your time, your heart, and your attention are not free. Respecting yourself first means rewriting the rules of the game. Instead of asking, "Why did he leave?" or "Why is he back now?" you flip the question. You ask, "Why should I let him return?" That small shift changes everything. Suddenly, you are not the one seeking validation. You are not the one chasing answers. You are not the one holding out hope for a better version of someone who has already failed you. No, you become the one in control. Respect turns the table around. It puts you in the position of power. And trust me, nothing destroys someone's ego more than realizing they are no longer in control of the story they thought they were writing. Here's the brutal truth. If you don't respect yourself, no one else will. People treat you the way you allow them to. If you let someone disappear and reappear without consequence, they will keep doing it. If you let someone take your silence as weakness, they will keep taking advantage of it. But when you respect yourself enough to draw the line, to say no more, suddenly the entire energy shifts. You are no longer the one waiting. You are no longer the one begging. You are no longer the one explaining. You are the one demanding, and that demand doesn't need shouting, doesn't need drama, doesn't need a long speech. Respect shows itself in your actions, in your boundaries, in your refusal to accept less than you deserve. Respecting yourself also means protecting your heart. When you keep opening the door for someone who has already slammed it in your face, you are not respecting yourself. You are harming yourself. Every time you say yes to someone who treated you like an option, you are saying no to your own peace, your own growth, your own worth. But when you say no, when you choose not to respond, when you choose not to give them easy access, you are finally saying yes to yourself. You are telling yourself, I matter, my time matters, my love matters. And that is the foundation of real strength. That is the beginning of real respect. And let me tell you this, the moment you respect yourself first, the world changes around you. That man who thought he could come and go, he'll feel the shift. He'll sense the wall. He'll know the game is over. Because nothing is more brutal than someone who finally realizes, I don't have the same access anymore. Respect creates distance. Respect creates power. Respect creates peace. And once you step into that space, once you hold your head high and choose yourself above the chaos, you will never go back. Respect yourself first, because when you do, no reply, no silence, no words will ever feel weak again. Instead, every move you make will scream strength. Inconsistency is the sharpest red flag that people choose to ignore. One moment he is present, attentive, and making you feel like you matter. The next moment he is gone, silent, unreachable. And then, when he decides the timing suits him, he reappears with a casual text, as if nothing happened. That pattern is not affection. That pattern is not love. That pattern is not respect. It is inconsistency. And every time you respond with eagerness, every time you accept his return without consequence, you are rewarding behavior that should never have been tolerated. You are teaching him that disappearing acts are acceptable. And if you reward inconsistency once, he will repeat it again and again and again. Think about it. When a child misbehaves and you reward them anyway, what happens? They repeat the behavior. Why? Because they've learned there's no price to pay for crossing the line. Adults are no different. If he can vanish, ignore, and then return only to find your reply waiting with open arms, he has no incentive to change. In fact, he now knows he can break the pattern as often as he likes, because you'll keep fixing it for him. That's why inconsistency thrives in silence that is broken too soon. But when you stop rewarding it, when you refuse to play into it, the inconsistency is no longer a game. It becomes a burden for him, not you. Consistency is the foundation of any real connection. If someone cannot show up for you consistently, they do not deserve the luxury of your attention. You see, inconsistency is not about being busy. It is not about forgetting. It is about priorities. People show up for what matters to them. People make time for what they value. So when his actions swing back and forth, when his words don't align with his silence, understand this: you were not the priority. That truth is hard to swallow, but it is necessary. And rewarding it by giving him easy access again only guarantees you'll keep swallowing the same disappointment. The brutal truth is this: inconsistency is emotional manipulation. It keeps you guessing, it keeps you waiting, it keeps you hoping. It's designed to keep you off balance, because when you're off balance, you can't demand respect. When you're off balance, you keep reaching for scraps. When you're off balance, you convince yourself that the little attention he gives you is worth the silence he put you through. But no, that is the trap. That is the design. And that is why you must refuse to reward it. Because the moment you stop responding to inconsistency, the manipulation crumbles. He loses his grip. He loses his control. He loses the ability to keep you dancing between his presence and his absence. Don't misunderstand. Refusing to reward inconsistency doesn't always mean blocking or cutting ties instantly. Sometimes it means slowing down your replies. Sometimes it means setting a standard. If you cannot show up consistently, you cannot show up at all. Sometimes it means putting your phone down, walking away, and refusing to let that buzz, that notification, that sudden hey, trick you into forgetting the weeks of silence, because inconsistency feeds on memory loss. It counts on you forgetting the pain the moment a little attention returns. But when you remember, when you keep that standard alive, you starve the inconsistency, you take away its oxygen, and you make it impossible for him to breathe easy in the same game he once controlled. And here's the real power. The moment you stop rewarding inconsistency, you open the door for consistency to enter your life. Because when you no longer settle for half attention, half effort, half love, you create space for people who show up fully, people who value stability, people who understand that respect is built in repetition, not in random appearances. You show yourself and the world around you that your worth cannot be negotiated. And once you lock into that truth, once you reject inconsistency with the full weight of your silence and your standards, you'll never again fall for the same cycle. Because the most brutal thing you can ever do to someone who lives off inconsistency is refuse to give them a reward. Calmness is the weapon nobody expects. People anticipate anger. They anticipate long messages, explanations, confrontations. They expect fire because fire is what most people give when they're hurt. But calmness, measured, steady, unshaken calmness, burns far deeper than rage ever could. When someone disrespects you, disappears, and then tries to slide back into your life with a text, they're ready for drama. They're ready for a storm. They're ready for your emotions to prove that they still have a hold on you. But when you respond with calmness, or when you don't respond at all, you rob them of their expectation. You don't give them what they came for. You leave them unsettled, and that unsettled feeling is far more brutal than any angry reply. Calmness shows control. It proves that you are not ruled by their actions, their silence, or their sudden reappearance. It tells them without words, you are not important enough to disturb my peace. And make no mistake, peace is power. Anyone can shout, anyone can argue, anyone can let emotions spill into long messages at 2 a.m. But only someone strong, someone grounded, someone who knows their worth, can remain calm in the middle of chaos. That composure is intimidating, it is unsettling, it is destructive, because it forces the other person to see that their behavior no longer carries weight in your world. Think about how powerful that is. Anger keeps the conversation alive, but calmness kills it without effort. Anger gives them attention, even if it's negative attention. But calmness takes away the oxygen completely. You don't fight, you don't argue, you don't defend yourself. You simply stand still, like a mountain unmoved by the storm. And in that stillness, they realize something terrifying. They no longer control you. That realization is brutal. That realization destroys them more than any insult, because it exposes the truth. They don't matter the way they once thought they did. Calmness is not weakness. Don't mistake it. Calmness is strategy. It's the refusal to let someone pull you into their chaos. When you respond with calmness, you are not avoiding the fight. You are choosing to win it silently. You are saying, I will not lower myself. I will not waste my energy. I will not let you drag me into the same game you've been playing. And that message is louder than shouting, stronger than anger, and more final than silence alone. Calmness is the difference between reacting and commanding. It shows that you hold the higher ground and you don't intend to step down from it. The beauty of calmness is that it echoes long after the moment has passed. If you lash out, he can dismiss you as emotional. If you argue, he can twist your words, call you dramatic, or pretend he didn't understand. But calmness leaves nothing to attack. Calmness cannot be twisted. Calmness lingers in his mind because it denies him the fight he came looking for. He has to sit with his own choices, his own silence, his own actions. You gave him nothing new to feed on. That emptiness forces him to reflect. And reflection is the most brutal punishment for someone who hoped to distract himself with your emotions. And here is the deepest truth. Calmness is a declaration of value. It says, I value myself too much to waste energy proving my worth to you. It shows that your peace is not for sale, your dignity is not negotiable, and your response is not automatic. Calmness communicates that your life is bigger than their text, bigger than their inconsistency, bigger than their attempts to re-enter on their own terms. And when someone realizes that you will never again give them the satisfaction of chaos, that you will only ever meet them with composure, they understand the game is over, because the most brutal reply is not rage, not noise, not explanation. The most brutal reply is calmness. There comes a moment when you must stop asking, "Am I good enough for him?" and start asking, "Is he good enough for me?" That shift in perspective changes everything. Because the truth is, you are not an option waiting to be chosen. You are not a backup plan sitting on a shelf. You are not a placeholder for when he gets bored of the world. You are the prize. And when you understand that, when you carry yourself with the confidence of someone who knows their worth, the entire dynamic changes. He stops being the one in control. He stops being the one who sets the terms. Suddenly, he has to prove himself to you, and that is where real power lies. When he texts you after silence, he's testing to see if the door is still open. He's wondering if you'll accept crumbs, if you'll allow yourself to be treated like an option again. But when you see yourself as the prize, the decision is no longer his, it's yours. You don't sit there waiting to see what he'll say. You sit there asking yourself, does this even meet my standard? Does this even deserve my time? That shift is brutal. Because the moment you start evaluating him instead of waiting to be evaluated, he realizes something painful. He's no longer the one holding the prize. He is chasing it. He is chasing you. Being the prize doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean playing games or pretending to be above others. It means knowing the value of your love, your time, your presence, and refusing to give it to someone who doesn't earn it. Think about it. You are not just another text message, another distraction, another moment of attention. You are someone's peace, someone's strength, someone's anchor. And if he cannot recognize that, if he cannot show consistency, respect, and effort, he doesn't deserve the prize. He doesn't deserve you. Because the prize doesn't chase, the prize doesn't beg, the prize doesn't lower itself to prove value. The prize simply shines, and those who recognize its worth will step up to claim it. The most brutal reply to inconsistency, to disrespect, to silence followed by sudden return, is not anger. It's not even silence alone. It's the unshakable knowledge that you are the prize, and he is the one who should be proving himself, because that realization flips the balance. It makes him feel small. It makes him question himself. It makes him ask, am I good enough for her? Am I worthy of her time? Am I capable of meeting her standard? And those questions are far more destructive than any reply you could ever send. Because now, he is forced to see himself in the position he once placed you in, the one seeking approval, the one chasing validation. The power of being the prize is this: you never settle. You never accept half effort. You never trade your crown for crumbs. When you see yourself as the prize, you stop running toward people who run away from you. You stop rewarding inconsistency. You stop confusing silence for care. Instead, you stand tall. You set boundaries. And you let people prove they deserve the right to be in your life. And if they can't, you let them go without hesitation. Because the prize doesn't move for those who don't value it. The prize waits for those who know its worth and are willing to rise to the occasion. And here's the final truth about being the prize. The moment you embrace it, you will never again feel desperate for anyone's reply. You will never again lose yourself in someone else's silence. You will never again settle for being treated as an option, because you'll know deep in your soul that the real win is not him choosing you. It's you choosing yourself first. And once you hold that truth, once you live it, once you breathe it, every text, every silence, every game loses its power over you. Because in the end, the prize never chases. The prize gets chosen. Every time he disappears and reappears, he is not just sending a text. He is inviting you back into a game of power, a game of control, a game designed to keep you chasing while he sets the rules. But here's the truth. You don't win this game by playing it better. You don't win by replying faster, or by crafting clever comebacks, or by pretending you don't care while secretly waiting for his next move. You win by ending the game altogether. You win by stepping off the board and refusing to let your worth be measured by someone who never deserved it in the first place. That decision is not only brutal, it is final. When you end the game, you take away the only thing he thought he had, your participation. He expected you to fight for his attention, to prove your worth, to compete with his silence, but you don't. You choose peace over chaos, dignity over drama, self-respect over desperation. And nothing destroys a manipulator faster than realizing the game no longer works. They thrive on reaction. They thrive on your energy. They thrive on knowing they can still control your emotions. But when you end the game, you take away the supply. You take away their power, and that silence, your silence, becomes the final checkmate. Ending the game also means ending the cycle, because inconsistency thrives in repetition. It thrives when you keep opening the door, when you keep forgiving without change, when you keep rewarding half effort with full attention. But when you end it, you cut the cycle, you break the loop. You create a new reality where your standards stand taller than your emotions. That's what makes it brutal. He expected to come back, expected to find you waiting, expected the same story to play out again. But instead, he finds nothing. He finds a closed door. He finds silence not as a pause, but as a permanent ending. That's when the weight hits him, the realization that the game is over. Make no mistake, ending the game takes strength. It's easier to play along. It's easier to keep answering, to keep hoping, to keep waiting for consistency that never comes. Ending the game means saying no to the small comfort of his occasional attention. It means saying yes to your own dignity, even if that yes feels heavy at first. But understand this, the short-term discomfort of ending the game is nothing compared to the long-term pain of staying in it. Every time you play, you lose pieces of yourself. Every time you wait, you shrink your value. Every time you reply, you lower the standard. But when you end the game, you stop losing, you stop shrinking, you stop lowering. You win not by beating him at his game, but by refusing to play it at all. Ending the game also sends a message that echoes louder than words. It says you don't get to decide my value, you don't get to control my emotions, you don't get to walk in and out of my life on your terms. That message is brutal not because you shouted it, not because you argued it, but because you lived it. Because nothing is louder than action. And when your action is to step back, to cut the cord, to walk away without hesitation, you are sending a message he will never forget. He expected anger, he expected tears. He expected the fight, but he never expected the ending, and that's why it destroys him. And finally, when you end the game, you reclaim your life. You reclaim your time, your peace, your energy. You free yourself from the endless roller coaster of inconsistency, silence, and sudden returns. You stop existing in reaction to someone else's actions, and you start living on your own terms. That's the ultimate win. That's the real destruction. Because the moment you step off the board, the game no longer exists. There's nothing left to play, nothing left to control, nothing left to win or lose. You've already won. Because you chose yourself, you ended the game, and in the end, that is the most brutal move of all. So when the silence breaks and that message finally arrives, Don't forget what you've learned. Silence is your power. Respect yourself first. Never reward inconsistency. Stay calm, always. Remember, you are the prize. And most importantly, end the game. Don't play it, because the moment you do, you'll see the truth. You never lost him. He lost you, and that is the most brutal reply of all.